did a complete renovation of our galley while we've been here in Maryland. And it's freaking awesome. On this boat, we have a tiny galley.
It's big.
I regularly laugh at people who say they have a small galley online, like regularly laugh at them, because they have 3 to 4 times this amount of space we do. Counter space, fridge space, sink space, all of it.
If you have a double basin sink, you can shut up.
Yeah, yes. Our old galley, the original setup, was very specific and very dated. It had a sink that I couldn't even wash my hair in because it was so tiny. Like
What was it? It was like 11?
11 by 11 by 5
inches deep.
Yeah, 11 by 11 by 5. Tiny sink. And the lockers behind the stove were broken into these like compartments that you couldn't fit a plate in. Like you couldn't just drop a plate into it. The plates all sat like this in it, which means you got no space. But they couldn't sit all the way this way either because it wasn't tall enough. We couldn't fit pots and pans. It was just a nightmare. So we were using space that would have been great for food, for pots and pans and dishes, which when we were day sailing, not a big deal. Weekend sailing, it became a problem if we wanted to do more than 2 or 3 days. But now that we're fully living on the boat, it was impossible. So we started this reno back in 6-7 months ago, and we did the biggest part, which was ripping out the cabinets and making that space behind.
You're being awfully nice calling them cabinets.
Okay, so ripping
it was a shelf with like a weird shape, like front with like notches in it.
Yeah, and the bottom shelf had these doors on them that like you couldn't. Like, if you put the door all the way over, you still couldn't get to certain parts of it. It was a miserable setup. So we ripped that section out before we started this. But since we got to Maryland, we have done a whole heck of a lot of work. Andy's done a lot of work.
Including the piece de resistance.
Yes, my new sink. I was so excited. So the first thing we did was that we raised the counter, 2.5 inches?
2 3/4 inches.
2 3/4 inches. So the counter is slightly higher, which is great because both of us are above average height. I'm 5'6", Andy's 6 feet. So to have a counter that was we were both just kind of
that and the stove was back, so when you were leaning, you were always hunched over the counter, and it was
uncomfortable, hard to do any sort of long-term cooking. So we've raised the counter, and in raising the counter, we also gave ourselves the ability to get a little bit deeper with our sink, and by a little bit deeper, we went to 8 inches.
8 inches. We had to raise the counter because the water level in the boat is about 3 inches below our old sink. So if we put a deeper sink in, we would have a constant inch of water in the boat.
In the bottom
inch of water in the sink, which is not really what you want.
No,
with
gross.
a sink.
Seawater
sink. So we had to raise it up to kind of keep that same lowest level of the sink as it was before.
Yeah. We also replaced the faucet. Our old faucet was really hard to kind of taper the volume of water coming out, which is a big deal when you're trying to conserve water on board. And it also was fixed, and we now have a pretty spiffy new
sprayer with an on-off.
Yeah, it's a sprayer. It's pretty freaking cool. We also have a full-size drain. The things that you think are so exciting when you move onto a boat. The last major piece of this was that we extended the countertop out 7 inches. This is huge. It gives us almost 3-4 times the amount of counter space that we had. I think it's probably 3 times the amount.
3 times as much for actual working, and it's wide enough we can actually fit a cutting board there and not have it be crooked because it's sitting half up on a fiddle.
Yeah, for the last 6 months, Andy has been using the stove cover on the stairs is like his workspace when he makes breakfast in the morning, and I'm like, every day I'm just like, that's gonna tip over.
It's precarious.
It is precarious.
To say the least.
And now there's like actually a legitimate counter to like chop stuff on and just like put plates on to plate things. It's pretty awesome.
Don't have to make sandwiches where my nasty feet are.
Yeah.
We put in all new Formica.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we got rid of the old countertops. Those old countertops were really dated. I just couldn't stand looking at them any longer.
Those were top of the line in 2001.
Yeah, they definitely had... They're better than what the boat originally came with, but they are not going to cut it for me. So we replaced it with new Formica, and it's just white to kind of keep with the nice kind of clean, crisp feel and look that we have down here. When you have such a small space, to use nice bright whites really makes it feel a little bit airier and brighter, and I'm feeling really good about how it looks. Other thing that we got out of the countertop going higher is now the bottom shelf behind the stove. All this where we used to keep drinkware and a few other odds and ends. We were having to move all of that stuff when we knew we were going to be encountering any kind of seas or if we were going to be healing, because all that stuff would just like tumble out. So now it all kind of sits below about a 2-inch lip. It does kind of limit the size of stuff we can fit under there, but the things that we were storing under there anyway are fitting, so we're pretty excited. We also changed up the plumbing a bit, so there's a new water filter under there. We weren't having filtered water. We weren't really drinking tank water. We were using tank water for other things, and now we're super excited to be able to reduce our plastic usage even more, and now that we can drink our tank water.
Drink it directly, because we were drinking it before through like a Brita.
Through Brita bottles, which we still probably will do because Brita bottles are nice. Those bottles are nice.
But
so
what we have is a charcoal filter in the inline, so it's pretty much the same as the Brita stuff, but industrial size.
So you could put anything in any container and drink it instead of just into the Brita bottles to drink it.
So your pasta doesn't taste a little funky anymore. Remember that pasta always has that little tank taste.
A little bit of tank taste. If you have not had the pleasure of drinking tank water with no filter, you should try it sometime. We are also going to be installing an accumulator tank because our new faucet is so low flow that it needs an accumulator.
Our pump keeps like flickering on and off.
It's making the quick fittings go.
It's not good for long-term quick fittings.
No, or for the pump for that matter.
Yeah.
So that should be arriving. The mail ladies come today. Should be here today.
She just arrived.
She did. So
mail time.
Mail time. This is, I think, our last package before we leave, but that'll be installed in the next day or so, and we will have a full new setup. We also have a second water tank now. The second water tank makes us a lot more self-sufficient.
Yeah.
It gives us probably another 4 to 5 days.
I think it's probably close to 20 gallons.
Yeah.
20 gallons?
Another 20 gallons?
Yeah, so we're probably close to 40 gallons total now.
Which is exciting, especially in these times where we don't know if we're going to end up having to quarantine somewhere or, have limited access to water. We don't have a water maker on board, so we have to carry all of our own water right now. And the beauty of the new tank, too, is that Andy installed it with a big filler thing. We have our normal deck filling system, but he also did this so that if we are able to do rainwater catchment, we can actually get it into the tank instead of doing what we've been doing, which is like using it to wash clothes and dishes and odds and ends stuff like that, instead of being able to actually just put it into the system. Yeah.
We're pretty fancy now.
We're so fancy.
We made a change to the Icebox. We removed the hinge on the lid. So it's just like a lift up now. I like it because it doesn't smack down your head anymore.
It never smacked down on my head. That was an Andy problem. But we'll see how it goes. The hinge might be going back in place because I'm already not a fan, but we'll see how it goes.
We'll give it 6 weeks.
Yeah. We haven't gotten to use it a lot yet. We've been kind of doing a few things in the sink, but we haven't used the stove or anything yet, so we will report back at some point about how that's working out for us with the higher countertop height. But so far, we're both super stoked about it.
2.5 months later, and we are loving all the changes we've made to the Galley. With the exception of the Icebox lid. So, having it like come out is kind of a pain, but I like it better than the hinge. Gwen likes it better with the hinge, but I'm the one that puts the hinge on, so it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, it's fine. It is what it is. Counter height though, has that been still good?
Counter height is perfect. So it's just a waist height, and I could reach over and do stuff on the stove and not have to be hunched over. It's amazing what 3 inches will do.
We are crazy happy with how this has come out, just from an aesthetic point of view, from a functionality point of view. It has been basically life-changing for us in how easy it is to cook on the boat. And we went the whole length of the ICW from Maryland on down to Florida. And we cooked almost every night. And I even cooked Thanksgiving dinner.
Yes, you did.
Like a pretty full Thanksgiving dinner. So, yeah, just super, super happy. If you have any questions about anything that we did, feel free to comment below. We'll answer for that. I'm also going to put a link in the description to some of the products, like the faucet, because it is super cool, and the sink and all those kinds of things. I'll put a link down below that'll just take you to a whole list of all of those things. This was the last major project we did before we left Maryland, so next week we will be back to sailing videos instead of project videos, so stay tuned.